think my speech and also Evan's are going to be a bit outshone by the young people, as it seems. They're a lot more prepared than me, that's for sure. Alright, I'm not sure what I was going to talk about really, to be honest. Talking about youth, what exactly do you actually talk about? So I've tried to narrow it down to the sort of areas that I know a bit more about, and whether it makes any more sense at the end, we'll find out. Oh yes, the mouse thing works as well. Cool. So who is this speaker guy? I'm not a Canning citizen. I'm from a foreign land called Mandurah. I'm not a $1 million think tank or a university research person or someone with a 22-year success record like previous speakers that we've had if you've attended those speaker series, which half of you haven't, I don't think, because there's a lot more young people this time, so that's really good to see everyone here. These are just basically my experiences over the past decade or so dealing with youth engagement in the local areas, councils, and also some of the crackpot theories and opinions. I'm a bit of a creative hack of all trades. Whatever I'm interested in, I'll give it a go, and I think with young people you'll find that's often the case as well, because they haven't been worn down yet. They've still got the spirits there, sort of thing. So, and that can often happen with older people and old generations, which often are the decision makers. They've kind of said, oh no, that won't work. I know it won't work because it didn't work when I did it. But young people would think something different to that. So the optimism in young people is always going to be a good inspiration for the older generation to take into consideration when they're making decisions, because maybe it didn't work when they tried it out, but maybe it did for us. For me, I started out when I was about 17 and I watched Wayne's World 2. Has anyone seen that movie? I think it's kind of in between both of the generations here right now. I think the younger people weren't born then, and the older people probably weren't going to watch it ever. Unless they understand what the word dude means. Anyway, so Wayne decides, with all that youthful optimism, that he wants to organise a concert. So I watched that and I thought, yeah, I want to organise a concert. So I just went down to my local recreation centre and said, I want to put a concert on here. I knew nothing about the local music scene at that time or anything, and I quickly learnt that, and I did it all by myself, and before I knew it, the council noticed what I'd done, because I'd organised 2 all-ages events myself with a local recreation centre, just kind of ticking the boxes for me. And a youth arts officer from the local council noticed me and got me on board to help out with all the events for the council there. And if that didn't happen, that engagement between council and myself, maybe I wouldn't be speaking to you right now. From there I went and studied film and television, which is obviously a different route. I had a music background before, making hip-hop music, electronic music, but I moved into film and television stuff, and that's why I'm normally filming these speeches instead of being in front of the camera. And from there somehow became the chair of the Young People in Arts Funding Panel for the Department of Culture and Arts, which is, I always find hilarious because I failed art at high school. And I've got all these uni degree people sitting around me and they have to listen to me when I'm saying no. And basically now, I somehow stumbled into surviving doing creative production and art and youth project coordination and program coordination for local councils. And I've worked for various councils, mainly south of the river. It's no bias, of course, it just happens to be where I can be bothered driving to. Yeah, from that I get to see how each council works, and each council does work differently, and they can often act quite separate as well, because they've all got separate budgets, so we can't collaborate with the next one because, yeah, you know, everyone's kind of a bit more out for themselves. So it's hard to get actual collaboration between councils sometimes, I feel. And that's something to maybe consider, and I mean, it might even be forced upon some council groups in future because they're talking about actually combining some together. So that's some scary ideas for some councils, no doubt. Click. What is youth?
Someone under 25.
Someone under 25. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? Yep, that person up the back.
It's how you feel.
It's how you feel. Someone in the room feels young. This is what Wikipedia says. Youth is the time of life between childhood and adulthood maturity. Definitions of the specific age range that constitutes youth vary. An individual's actual maturity may not correspond with their chronological age, as immature individuals exist at all ages. Like myself, I have a thing called PPS, which I like to call Peter Pan syndrome. I'm actually 30. What was that what for? I purposely didn't shave to make myself look more manly, but okay, so it says something off to the side there. The age in which a person is considered a youth and thus eligible for special treatment under the law and throughout society varies around the world. United Nations General Assembly and the World Bank class it as 15 to 24. The Commonwealth Youth Program class it as 15 to 29. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, wherever the hell that is, I know this is just off Wikipedia. Under 21. Wilson School District, I love Wilson School District, wherever that is. Wherever it is, 14 to 21. Alternative, go Wilson! Alternative Homes for Youth, Inc., 13 to 19. The Danish Youth Council, 15 to 34. City of Canning Youth Services, I just met with Evan, the coordinator today, and he showed me one of the programs. It's for 11 to 17. And this talk is for people under 25. So what is youth? What age? I'm not sure. Life expectancy throughout history. As you can see throughout the years, we've got all sorts of eras and that sort of thing, all sorts of wars and no doubt other crazy stuff going on. And throughout it, on average, you're looking at about 30 or so until we get about to the 20th century and we start getting technology and stuff, and suddenly we can fix ourselves when we get shot in a war or something like that, or fall over or whatever. Or just don't fall off the end of the earth, because back then, before the 20th century, it was flat. So it's always a safety hazard. Got to watch out for that world. So, I have a crackpot theory. If life expectancy is doubled, then so has the process of being young doubled as well. Is 30 the new 15? And we always say that when I've just turned 30, oh yeah, 30 is the new 20, or 40 is the new 30. Maybe it is. Is 40 the new 20? Is 50 the new 25? As we define 18 normally as when you become an adult, as the end of youth. On current standards, we live until 67 years on average, and that's worldwide. That's probably not even Australia. Australia's probably a lot higher. Divide that by 18, that's 3.7, some number. AKA, a quarter of your life is youth. Pre-20th century, we're only living until about 30. And divide that by 18, and that's 1.6, another number. And that means 2/3 of your life is youth. So by pre-20th century standards, youth could be defined as up to about 40 years of age in current times. Because 2/3 of your life is supposed to be young, according to the previous times. Yet we still probably act like, oh, you've got to get married by this age, and you've got to get a house, and you've got to get all this, you know, all at a certain age. But we haven't noticed that we're actually living a bit longer, and even maybe biologically, things are changing as well. People might not notice, oh, some people are maturing younger, some people are maturing older, and all sorts of things. So maybe we're evolving as a species, both with technology and within ourselves and with our current environment. So maybe youth isn't 25, 21, 18, or 29 or 30 or whatever. Maybe it's 40. Youth don't own anything significant in monetary value, don't pay taxes and rates, and don't vote. So what this means is the bigwigs that have the money and the power and the decision making to do might not always take that seriously, because sometimes there's a thing called politics involved. And if you haven't got a vote to put in, then it's hard for you to have a voice. So do we value young people even though they don't actually pay your wage, or don't own a property, or don't vote for you? Do we still actually care what they actually think about and what they want and what they actually need? Especially when, of course, they're not going to be as developed as the people that can do those things, so they're probably going to have more needs than the people that are older in the first place. So that's the question you've got to ask, is do we value young people? There's generational difference. What one person likes, another hates. And my example for this is when I was up in Perth once from Old Country Mandurah or Rockingham or wherever I was living at the time, and up in the Big Smoke, I was on a cat bus and I was going past that new, you know, that new stadium that looks kind of like Fed Square that's getting built in the city, that thing. It's like a boxy sort of thing. Anyway, it hadn't been built yet. that there was a sign showing a concept picture. And here I am looking at the windows going, wow, that looks awesome. And because I have like a creative background and that sort of thing, you know, some weird thing sitting in the middle of Perth really does it for me, and that probably what attracts me, would further attract me to stay in this state, stay in this town, whatever. Meanwhile, the older couple next to me go, oh my God, that's disgusting. Yeah, if I was a little bit younger and thinking the same thoughts, I probably wouldn't have much say of whether that disgusting thing could stick around or not, but the older people might. So it's that really hard balance of trying to make sure that everyone actually gets to have their own likes around them. Because a lot of things can be based on past history and historical things. And we're always often looking to the past rather than actually thinking about a brighter future, rather than just dwelling always on the past and that. Another thing is, of course, negative stereotypes. Today I'm modelling some camo pants, and if I put on this hood and I'm just walking around like this, if you saw me walking in the street, maybe you think I'm going to stab you or something. What you won't know is I'm a massive nerd and I stay home most of the time, and I'm scared of knives and fire and lots of other things. I have lots of phobias. So, and why do I wear this? Well, I grew up with a whole lot of musical interests and other things, and that just influences my fashion. And I'm looking to the future. I'm not necessarily going to wear a suit because I don't like suits. But I'm going to wear this because I like it, and not necessarily because some other generation is going to have a certain stereotype about it. And sometimes young people don't realise that. I've had some young people that have been involved in graffiti and don't realise that they actually dress all exactly the same. They go, oh no man, we don't dress like that. Yes you do. And they wonder why the police always pick them up straight away, just say, oh yeah, him. They go straight to him and check his bag or whatever. It's because they all dress exactly the same. And sometimes young people can't actually realise that they're actually projecting an image out to the rest of the community. Canning is very multicultural, as we heard in previous speeches. And we often think about multiculturalism as in nationality, but what we don't often think about is youth subcultures within that and how they are unique. We often just put a blanket thing like youth. Youth like to have discos, or youth like to do this. Well, actually, youth like lots of different things, and it could be like 20 youth like this and 50 like that and all sorts of things. So it's actually quite a hard demographic to not deal with, but trying to engage with. Some subcultures defined by Wikipedia. I'm not even going to read all of them, but you can have just a quick look and just say, anyone know what freak scene is? What about rockabilly? Military brat? Has anyone been to a Juggalo festival before? All of these different types might be seen as stereotypes, but they're actually known as scenes and subcultures, and they have certain fashion sense and certain things that they're interested in. Each one of these groups is not going to necessarily like the same things, even though in general as humans we might want to achieve the same things, as I was speaking to someone earlier on about, but they aren't going to have particular interests. Like someone who's into Pokemon culture is only going to be interested in collecting them all. Nothing's going to stop them. And I think this is often not thought about, especially when we're marketing to people. If I'm putting on a hip-hop event, I'm not going to dress it up to make it look like it's something for a ballerina or something. I'm going to market it so it looks like it's for that demographic. And it might be a small demographic. It might be 30 people in your community, but those people deserve to have their interests served just as well as anyone else, and not just a blanket serving of whatever is deemed appropriate for youth.